If you think people today improvise when the pantry is empty, families in the 1930s were playing that game on an entirely different level. During the Great Depression, every meal felt like a silent negotiation with reality. What was available, what could be stretched, and who needed to sit at the table that night. There was no room for fussiness or special ingredients. It was about turning almost nothing into something warm, and somehow still calling it dinner. Amid layoffs, endless food lines, and an uncertainty that seemed to have no end, American kitchens became survival laboratories. A handful of noodles, the last piece of day-old bread, a spoonful of saved grease, a few wilted potatoes forgotten at the bottom of the drawer, everything became a recipe. And the most curious part is that many of these creations born from necessity eventually became comfort food classics, dishes that, decades later, still carry that flavor of a simple yet welcoming home. Today, we look back at that harsh but ingenious era to revisit 15 simple, cheap, and creative foods that literally kept millions of American families going during the Great Depression. Hoover stew. Among the many improvised dishes of the era, few capture the spirit of the Great Depression as well as Hoover stew. It was born in communal kitchens, where hundreds of people waiting in line depended on whatever could be prepared from donations and leftovers. It was simple, even by the standards of the time: cheap pasta cooked until soft, canned tomatoes adding a touch of acidity, and some chopped hot dogs when luck allowed. Even with so little, the dish managed to provide something warm, comforting, and above all communal. It wasn't just food. It was a reminder that during those difficult years, survival was a collective effort. Potatoes with water gravy. If there was one ingredient that rarely ran out in American homes during the 1930s, it was the potato. Cheap, versatile, and able to feed many, it became the star of countless improvised dishes. The version with water gravy emerged precisely from the need to create flavor where there was almost none. The potatoes were boiled until soft, while the gravy was made only with hot water, a bit of flour to thicken it, and the saved grease from a previous fry. The result was simple, but it brought a sense of completeness that made a difference in a time when scarcity shaped every meal. The combination became a symbol of survival because it transformed minimal ingredients into something that warmed not only the stomach but also a modest hope for better days. Old bread and eggs, egg and bread scramble. Among the many culinary adaptations of the Great Depression, few dishes show creativity in the face of scarcity as clearly as this mix of beaten eggs with chunks of day-old bread. The idea was simple: nothing could go to waste. The hardened bread, which in better times might have been thrown away, gained new life when soaked in egg and taken to a hot skillet. The result was a quick meal, nutritious enough to start the day and capable of feeding the whole family without straining the budget. In many homes, this combination became a tradition because it carried that quiet comfort of something made with care, even when resources were scarce. Water pancakes. Water pancakes emerged at a time when basic ingredients like milk and eggs simply no longer fit into many families' budgets. Even so, the desire to put something warm on the table at the start of the day remained. The solution was to create an extremely simple batter made only with flour, water, and a pinch of salt. Even without the typical fluffiness of traditional pancakes, they fulfilled their purpose of providing sustenance, and that already meant a lot. In many households, these pancakes were served with whatever was available: a bit of saved butter, a spoonful of molasses, or even leftovers of cooked fruit. Each small adaptation turned this dish into more than just an improvisation. They represented the daily attempt to preserve some sense of normalcy during a period when almost everything seemed lost. Milk toast. Milk toast held a special place on the tables of that era because it represented a rare moment of gentleness during days of great hardship. When there was still milk available, even in small amounts, families made the most of every drop to create something that warmed the body and soothed the spirit. The recipe was simple: slices of toasted bread soaked in a hot sauce made with milk, a bit of butter, and a pinch of salt. It was soft, delicate, and for many people, it carried a feeling of care during a time when almost nothing felt easy. This dish eventually became part of the American collective memory as a symbol of comfort, remembered by many as one of the few possible indulgences during those years marked by scarcity. Baked beans with cornbread. Among the many dishes born out of necessity, baked beans with cornbread stood out as a combination that crossed generations. It was common in the American South, where beans cooked slowly, often with a drizzle of molasses to add sweetness and depth, filled the home with an aroma that recalled calmer times. Cornbread, rustic and quick to prepare, completed the meal with its firm and slightly sweet texture. Even when the pantry was nearly empty, this pair could feed entire families, offering a sense of steadiness amidst so much uncertainty. In many households, it became a symbol of togetherness because it brought everyone to the table, even when the rest of life felt out of control. Stuffed onions with crumbs. Stuffed onions with crumbs emerged as an ingenious way to transform extremely modest ingredients into something more elaborate. Families would remove the center of the onions and fill the space with a mixture of crumbled stale bread, a bit of saved fat, and sometimes dried herbs left in the cupboard. Then everything went into the oven to brown. The aroma that spread through the kitchen created an emotional memory that lasted for decades, because even in such a harsh period, there was still room for small gestures of care. This dish showed that when resources were almost non-existent, it was still possible to create something that conveyed warmth and the feeling that home remained a place of protection. Fried grated potato, depression hash. Fried grated potato became a practical alternative for families who needed to feed many people with almost nothing. All it required was grating the potatoes, mixing them with onion, and adding any leftover meat when that rare bit of luck appeared. Everything went into a hot skillet until it formed that golden crust that made the dish seem more substantial than it really was. This mixture represented the daily effort to stretch every ingredient, because nothing could be wasted. In many homes, this dish became part of the routine not only because it was economical, but because of the familiar comfort it brought, reminding everyone that, even in hardship, there were still ways to keep some flavor on the table and preserve a piece of the normalcy people were trying so hard to hold on to. Apple peel pies. Apple peel pies reveal how culinary creativity became an essential survival tool during the Great Depression. When whole fruits were far too scarce to fill a traditional pie, families carefully saved the peels and scraps, cooking everything with a bit of sugar and spices to create a filling that resembled the original flavor. The texture wasn't exactly the same, but the sweet aroma that filled the home brought back a sense of comfort many thought they had lost forever. In such difficult times, this adaptation showed that, with a little imagination and patience, it was still possible to preserve beloved traditions and keep alive the small joys that helped people endure the weight of those uncertain years. Tomato with sugar. Tomato with sugar may sound strange today, but during the Great Depression, it was considered a small, affordable treat. The tomato was cut in half and sprinkled with a thin layer of sugar, creating an unexpected contrast between the fruit's natural acidity and the improvised sweetness. For many children of that era, this simple flavor became almost a dessert, since more elaborate ingredients were out of reach. In households where sugar was carefully rationed, this small gesture carried special meaning. It reminded people that there were still ways to create pleasant moments, even when life seemed reduced to nothing but restrictions. This combination lived on in the memories of many because, despite its modesty, it offered a sweet pause in days marked by so much worry. Stone soup. Stone soup gained strength during this period because it symbolized the hard truth of those years. When almost nothing is available, every ingredient matters. The old folktale told of a traveler who began the soup with nothing but a clean stone, encouraging those nearby to contribute whatever they had. During the Great Depression, that idea stopped being just a metaphor and became reality. Potatoes, a piece of carrot, a handful of beans, leftover bones, or wilted vegetables all went into the same pot, creating a simple broth that filled the stomach without requiring much. The dish reminded families that, despite individual scarcity, it was possible to feed many when each person added even the smallest contribution. This quiet sense of unity made the soup more than food. It became a message of shared resilience, in a time when relying on one another was the only way to keep moving forward. Potato and flour dumplings. Potato and flour dumplings emerged as one of the most efficient ways to turn just a few ingredients into something capable of feeding an entire family. The base was always the same, boiled and mashed potatoes mixed with a minimal amount of flour, just enough to hold the dough together. The mixture was shaped into small pieces and cooked in boiling water, creating soft dumplings that resembled a rustic version of gnocchi. When there was a bit of butter or saved fat, they gained an extra shine at the end, but even without it, they already fulfilled their purpose of filling the plate and warming the body. This simple preparation showed how indispensable creativity became in times of need, as it allowed ordinary potatoes to be transformed into a meal that, though modest, carried the comforting feeling families needed to face yet another difficult day. Lard sandwich. The lard sandwich is perhaps one of the clearest examples of how extreme simplicity could become sustenance during the Great Depression. All it required was spreading a thin layer of lard on bread, adding a pinch of salt, and when it was a bit more generosity, some slivers of onion for flavor. This snack was especially common among rural workers and men who faced long days in the fields, because it provided quick energy and could be prepared at virtually no extra cost. Although today it may seem unimaginable to consider this a meal, it represented a kind of quiet strength that defined the daily life of the era. It served as proof that even with minimal resources, families found ways to keep going, adapting to limitations and turning very little into a daily act of resilience. Simple oatmeal pudding. Simple oatmeal pudding was a practical solution for those who needed to feed children and adults with something warm and energizing while spending almost nothing. The base was just oats cooked in water until thickened, creating a creamy texture that could be adapted depending on what was available in the pantry. When there was molasses or a bit of brown sugar, the dish gained a sweet touch that made all the difference, especially on colder mornings. Despite its simplicity, this pudding carried a deep emotional meaning because it represented the daily effort of families to maintain some sense of care at the table, even with extremely limited resources. It brought a feeling of continuity and routine that helped people face the harshness of the time, reminding them that small gestures of comfort could still exist within the difficult reality of those years. Vinegar pie. Vinegar pie shows just how far ingenuity could go when expensive ingredients simply disappeared from American kitchens. Without access to lemons, fresh fruit, or traditional fillings, families discovered that a mixture of water, sugar, flour, and a touch of vinegar created a flavor surprisingly similar to citrus pies. The vinegar provided the acidity needed to balance the sweetness, and once baked, the dessert developed a creamy texture that resembled much more elaborate recipes. This culinary trick became a symbol of adaptation, proving that a lack of resources didn't stop anyone from seeking moments of pleasure at the table. In many households, this pie became a quiet gesture of hope, showing that despite the crisis, there was still room for comforting flavors and the reminder that better days could always be on the way. These dishes tell far more than stories of improvised recipes. They preserve the memory of a people who had to turn scarcity into creativity every single day. The Great Depression deeply marked the lives of American families, but it also left a legacy of resilience that passed through generations. Every simple combination, every unexpected substitution, and every dish made with the bare minimum reveal a persistent desire for comfort, unity, and hope. Looking at these foods today is to revisit a time when the table had less abundance, yet far more meaning. It was there, in the midst of so little, that families found the strength to keep moving forward. And even though many of these dishes were born out of necessity, they eventually became part of American cultural identity, carrying a nostalgia that remains alive. If these memories stirred something in you, share which of these dishes you would try and what memories this era brings to your mind. Your comment helps keep alive the stories that shape the past. If you want to continue this journey through time, subscribe to the channel and follow new chapters of American nostalgia.